Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the most toxic team for the Open Great League with Annihilape. I tried this team out just now because I only really had a little bit of time to finish all my sets because the league change is around 10 PM for me. So I want to do something a little bit faster, and so I went for the most toxic team that you can imagine around Annihilape. And I went 16-1. I had an 11-game win streak at one point as well, which was really nice. And I only lost to a very unlikely team, to be fair, to encounter, so this kind of showcases on how good this team actually be. Of course, I tanked a little bit, like I'm not like crazy low elo or whatever, but I tanked a little bit for those weekend here because I kind of wanted to get my battles done a little bit faster. And so of course it's going to be also in there, but I'm now up to again like 2600 rating actually after I was done with my battles for today, so I'm going to be back there. I'm going to try to hit Legend, by the way, this weekend as well. I could have done already that way earlier, but yeah, I kind of want to wait until Great League is back to hit Legend, so here we go. This weekend I'm going to definitely hit Legend, trust me on that. But here, first game, we're going to be able to sweep endgame with a Victory Bell. And I have to say, like, Victory Bell is most likely the MVP of this team. Of course, it's a team around Annihilape as well. It is a team that you usually were running with the Medicham, but now basically Annihilape does the exact same thing as Medicham, just in way better, which is kind of cool. So, there were some games that were also a little bit closer, which I have to say, and where you have to think a little bit, like, differently than what I did, for example, and there was, like, games that I nearly screwed up. But here, first game, or, like, second game, we're going to have the Broguiere, which is going to go down against the Bastion, but this matchup is actually a little bit more closer than you might expect against the Broguiere, because Broguiere actually can win this in the 1-0 shield scenario, or like basically if they use one more shield than I do. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky for that, but you're gonna be able to just go ahead and swap into our Victory Bell now. We're gonna go for the full farm now, but they have actually a Sandsash in the back, and so our Annihilape is going to annihilate them, which of course I had to make this joke here. But what you're also gonna see here is that I'm going to wait out this because I don't want to give the opponent extra farm, and so I waited until I was only at 1 HP basically. And so the opponent's Trevenant does not get any farm from me here. I can just go for the full farm down and win this game fairly easily. Next opponent coming through, we're going to have a Poliwrath in the lead, and now we can talk a little bit about how you play this team, because who is your say swap here? And I can tell you, basically the say swap is whatever is worse against the lead that you encounter that beats Bastion. That's basically what you want to do. So, if you encounter a ground type Pokemon, a ground water type Pokemon like a Swampert, you want to swap into your Annihilape, because Annihilape is going to be worse for it. It's very likely that the opponent is going to swap out into a different Pokemon, and so this is going to be the way to go. If you encounter something like a Fire type Pokemon, you might want to swap out into your Victory Bell instead. Something like a Poliwrath or whatever, where of course you have like two very good options. You can really decide on what you wanted to go for. Like, it really doesn't really matter there. For like a Poliwrath lead, I would most likely go into the Annihilape because you have a little bit better coverage moves on this Pokemon, and it's not as crazy good, I guess. Like, it's a little bit better for the Victory Bell to go for it. But yeah, basically that's what you want to do. So if you encounter like a Water or Mud Bull, go into your Annihilape. If you encounter anything else that kind of beats the Registeel, you rather go into your Victory Bell. For example, if you like face something like a Registeel in the lead, you might actually also want to go rather into your Victory Bell, which is still a very decent matchup in the 2-shield scenario, but here again, Victory Bell sweeps and game. I have to say there were a lot of teams that are really weak to Victory Bell. Here is a game where I make a huge mistake because I was not really paying attention, and you have to shield here, but I didn't go for it. I literally went for the opposite of it, and I knew about it as well, and I was like, no, I screwed up the game. But they actually, for whatever reason, are running Ice Punch, which I guess takes a little bit less energy, and so you get there a little bit earlier, which I guess has a little bit of play there. But this was allowing us to still align our Pokemon, which is kind of funny here. Well, yeah, it was a little bit of a guessing game, which was very unlikely for them to go back into the Talonflame. And so they decided to go into their own Lantern, which is kind of nice because now we have our Annihilape aligned against the opponent. We can go for an Ice Punch. I'm fairly certain that they're going to swap out eventually, and so I can align my Bastion against them and I can RPS them to death here, because yeah, this was definitely something where you should have used the shield though onto the Victory Bell. Even though like they're going to go back into the Talonflame, it's still better to align, like guarantee alignment basically there, than just having to hope and pray. Here we were able to hope and pray and win this game because of this, because like what does the opponent try to do now? Like, I have a Stone Edge stored, nearly 2 of them already. I have some energy on my Annihilape as well, as far as I remember, and the opponent has basically no health, so while they're still gonna try their best here, I'm going to just counter them down with the Annihilape, and so it's going to be a very good game here to the opponent. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have a Broguiere in the lead, and you might see now what I mean with what I said before. So basically, if the opponent uses one extra shield, like above what you want to do, the opponent might be able to win this in the 1-2 shield scenario, I guess it is then? I don't know. But yeah, basically I'm not going to usually use a shield to on my Bastion, because Bastion is so bulky anyway. I feel like it's a kind of a waste to use the shields on the Bastion if you have like 2 squishy Pokemon like I have here in the back. So here is something that I did not know. Maybe it's an IV thing or whatever, but I thought I would still get to the Stone Edge. You don't, which is really awkward. But you know what's also really awkward? Hitting a Body Slam against a Ghost-type Pokemon. So get wrecked there, Broguiere. I get 2 extra fast moves in, which can be very crucial. I have a shield advantage, which is still kind of fine, but the opponent has switch advantage, which is kind of awkward, and they swap out into a Toxapex. A very bulky Pokemon, but we can still go for the Shadow Ball. And this is something that a lot of people don't actually know. The Poison type is resisted by the Ghost type as far as I know as well. So like usually against most of the Poison types, Annihilape has just a way better matchup, for example, than the Medicham, which is kind of cool. So here we're going to be able to now take this move. This is just a Brain. I don't have to use a shield here. This is going to be resisted. And we're gonna be able to now meet the Swampert in the back. And if you ever wanted to see the Razor Leaf after 1 acid spray, you're going to see it here right now. Instant knockout. I was like, honestly, like the damage output is just insane. Next opponent, we're going to have a Charger Bug in the lead, and that's going to be great for us because the opponent stops out into the Lantern. And with this game is basically over already. Like, what do they want to do? We can already realign, we can knock them out here. They most likely go back into the Charger Bug, and the opponent also realizes this and decides to forfeit here already. Next opponent, we're going to have also the Primeape in the lead, which is a little bit awkward, but here we decided to go into our Annihilape. Both of our Pokemon would be like a decent option there, like both are kind of neutral against the opponent, like it's both kind of fine, like either the Victory Bell or the Annihilape. But again, I would rather go in like those 50-50 scenarios for the Annihilape instead, because you have better coverage against potential Pokemon that want to swap in, like for example something like a Mandibuzz if this Pokemon would come in. Now we're going to have here the Skeledirge, but again here, also there, I can still go for a Shadow Ball, force a shield off the opponent, which we're gonna be able to do so, and so I am going to be in a better spot. For example, if I went into the Victory Bell, I would have had now the Victory Bell against the Skeledirge, which would have not worked out. So at this point, we can just go ahead and go into our Bastion. This is going to be very easy for us. We can just maybe even go for the full farm down and just keep the energy, which I think would be also a cool play, but I think I am forced to go for a charge move here because the Shadow Ball plus Incinerate just does a little bit too much damage for my own good there, so I can swap out now into my Victory Bell. Primeape gone, and it's going to be just the Registeel in the back. And here's the cool thing about the Registeel matchup for you. Registeel only has resisted damage against you, and this is going to be kind of nice because you're going to see it now. The opponent is going to be always able to outspeed you. You generate, I think, 2 energy per turn, so like 4 energy total per Razor Leaf, which is not a lot, and you need 9, I think, to get to the move, which is, yeah, also not really ideal for you. So here they were able to outspeed me, but because they were also only having resisted damage, I can actually survive it and knock them out here. Next opponent, horrific lead for us. We have the Annihilape, and so I'm going to go into my own Annihilape. And what I do here is something that I'm not too sure if it's actually the smartest idea to go for. I'm actually going to go for the Ice Punch because this is going to get rid basically of the uneven amount of fast moves that we can go through, because basically you're unaligned by like 1 turn, you need 2 turns to get a counter through, so we were like basically in the middle of the animation, and if you go for an Ice Punch there, you would be able to just basically end up at the same fast move turns as the opponent. Here of course they don't have this shield, the first one, which is a little bit awkward, they baited me as well, but I'm still going to be able to get both shields from the opponent back, which is kind of what I wanted to go for. This is basically the best result that I could have went for anyway, so this is going to be okay for me, as I will see here that the opponent still has to go for a Shadow Ball. Ice Punch is not enough. They're gonna go for that, but I'm going to be okay with that because I can knock them out now with the Victory Bell. So let's see what they're going to have in the back here. Can we still win this game? It's going to be a close one. It's going to be a Dugong. And as you can see the Dugong, we can actually get some damage onto them with the Bastion. They're gonna go for the Dual, which is going to be a super effective hit, but it's not gonna do enough damage to even 2-shot us. And they're going to have in the back the Lantern. So 2 water-type Pokemon, and this is not going to be too bad for us, because we're going to have still our Victory Bell in the back. And with this, we're going to have definitely a win con there. But let's take a look at this matchup, because my opponent is, I guess, not playing it too bad, I would imagine at least. They're not going to go for that charge move, they're over-farming to basically 100 energy. After this move, I should be able to swap out very soon, and I will be able to just knock them out before they can go for another charge move, and with this, I can outspeed them, go for the Leaf Blade, and say goodbye to the opponent's Dugong here. So, good game there, and let's move on to the next one. Next opponent, we're going to have the Kaiwei in the lead, which is going to be a very decent matchup for us, and I can just stay in here. This is going to be so positive for us. We're going to be able to resist the opponent's moves there, which is amazing, and they swap out into the Cresselia. But sadly, our best answer for Cresselia is already on the field, so we're going to be forced to stay in here, as both Annihilape as well as, of course, our Victory Ball are not the biggest fans, especially as Cresselia nowadays a lot of times runs Future Sight over Moonblast, which is kind of interesting, which makes the matchup for the Cresselia at least a little bit better against something like a Victory Bell as well. So, yeah, we get kind of going to be forced to stay in here, which is still okay for me because against Kaiwei we still have some other options in the bag, so like it's not going to be the worst matchup. And as you can see here, Bastion is just completely destroying the opponent. I gonna see here the Grassland coming through, I can just go for the full farm down as well. And now I'm gonna end up with a ton of energy, still my Bastion here, and we will see a Charger bug coming in. Like, I don't even know why they did this, like they should have went rather into their other Pokemon, like the, what's called the Kaiwei, but they decided to forfeit now anyway, so we can move on to the next game. Great lead again, and the opponent stops out immediately, and I make a huge mistake here. This is something I want to talk about. If you remember this already, like this is also like a team that I had in my top teams for the Annihilape, but it's also a team that Homeslice Henry showcased. So you know that if you're going to encounter a Lickitung in the lead and a Sazorp of the Poliwrath, I would rather go into the Annihilape against the Poliwrath, because it is very, very likely that the opponent is running their own Annihilape in the back. And this team, while it's kind of cool or whatever, has sometimes a little bit of an issue against Annihilape, which was like a little bit something that I was like confused. I didn't know if I wanted to go for this team here, but I predicted that they have their own Annihilape in the back. But luckily, I'm going to be able to go for my Ice Punch here, which is kind of nice. And this is going to get the shield from the opponent. I can still go for another Ice Punch now, which is also kind of nice. I still have a shield left, which is kind of good for me. But as you're gonna see, I'm still kind of have to hit a Shadow Ball here. At least that's what I thought, but now I have an Ice Punch stored. And I decided to use a shield here because I think there are 2 Ice Punches and I can swap into my Bastion. But only because I knew what they had in the back, basically. I was able to adjust how I kind of wanted to play then, after already throwing the plan up basically in the beginning, but now I was able to adjust onto it, and also we're gonna see now that our Bastion still can take a Shadow Ball, and with this we can still go for 1 Flamethrower, which is going to get the opponent perfectly into range for 1 Ice Punch. And as I'm going to have this stored already, the opponent has nothing to do anymore and we were able to come back, but you can play this out a little bit better. Next opponent is going to be the one that also actually was the only one that actually was able to knock me out here, which is kind of funny. And you're gonna see a Hypno in the lead and you might think like, okay, you lost against this team. But yeah, like of course I'm gonna kind of give you a little bit of a hint towards what is going to happen here. But I was actually kind of careful here and used a shield, which I didn't have to do. They have a Trevenant in the back, which is a little bit awkward as well. Because I don't really have the best swap for it, so I'm kind of forced to stay in here, but I still need to keep my Bastion because I need to keep it as an answer for the Hypno, so like it's a little bit of a tough spot as you might think here already. But we still kind of have some ideas at least what we can do here, but as you're gonna see, the opponent uses a shield, and so I decided to swap out into my Victory Bell because I'm fairly certain I should be kind of fine at farming them down, and I can still go for a Leaf Blade against the Hypno. But we're gonna see something very, very soon here as well, is that we can farm them all the way down. They're going to have an Alolan Marek in the back, and there's nothing I can do. Like, there's literally nothing that I can do about this. This was the only game that I lost, and I had actually a positive lead of Hypno against Bastion, which is kind of mad. But they had 3 Pokemon that completely destroyed my backline, basically. And like, there's nothing that you can do about it if you have, basically, if you play with 1 Pokemon. Like, Bastion is pulling the weights here. Bastion still making this game fairly close as well, which is kind of funny. But Bastion alone is just like not enough 3D for it, so like if the opponent runs a team with Shadow Hypno, the Shadow Alolan Marek, I guess you're going to lose. But yeah, this was the only loss that I took with this team, so I'm still okay with that. What I have to say as well though, I cut out 4 battles I think in total, because I just had too many battles for this team that I also won. Like I literally only cut out battles that I won for this one, which is kind of funny. So yeah, like this team was just really, really good. I really recommend you to try this one out. It is just like so toxic, but like especially, you know, like right now you have to do double the amount of sets. Like you want to be done with it kind of fast, right? So having a team like this one, which is insanely fast, insanely toxic, of course, is just really a treat for kind of trying to get your battles done. Of course, I know that a lot of people are going to be very upset about me showcasing this team because it's going to be most likely kind of common then as well. But yeah, definitely something I would recommend you. Here, this game, just way too easy. Like the opponent has no chance of winning this game. Victory Bell was like so strong. Final game for today, we're going to have another hard counter in the lead, and it kind of showcase at least on how to play it again. We're gonna swap out into the Annihilape, and so we're gonna be able to get a ton of damage onto the opponent already, because I stayed in for too long. I can go for one Ice Punch against the opponent's Trevenant, which is kinda cool, but we have like the great coverage here. Like, this is the thing as well with the Annihilape, you just have really good coverage, and we're gonna take advantage of this because I can use a shield here, and I can still go for a sneaky Shadow Ball. The opponent most likely thinks, Ace Punch, I can survive this. But no, we can say goodbye to you, because now we can realign the opponent's Swampert. Now has to say hello to our good friend, the Victory Bell in the back, and also has to still give up a shield here, which is kind of funny. And so at this point, the opponent is going to be in a very tough spot. I have two full HP Pokemon that are RPSing the entire meta. It's Lantern in the back. And so, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely a very toxic line that I would really recommend here, because yeah, I went 16-1 with this team. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you leave a like, check out the videos on the screen, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.